pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Bishara.
Here.
Mr. Syak.
Here.
Mr. Clark. Mrs. Esposito.
Here.
Mr. Lembo.
Here.
Mrs. Stratton. Mrs. Pratt. And Mr. McEnroe.
Present. Not found. No presentations, no correspondence. Approval of the minutes. Everybody should receive the minutes of the regular meeting on January 19, 2010. Anybody have any corrections, deletions, comments on the meeting minutes? If not, I'll take the motion to accept the file.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Becker.
She's abstaining.
Yep. Mr. Bishara.
Yes.
Mr. Syak.
I also need to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Mrs. Esposito. Mr. Lembo.
Yes.
And Mr. McEnroe.
Yes. Can we say that we get those posted ASAP, please? Yep. Student Council representative, is Ms. Nowicki here tonight?
Mr. McEnroe, we only do those reports the second meeting of every
Oh, okay, we had two
We
meetings.
do the regular
Okay.
meeting, so
So no
we
district.
actually shouldn't even have those people on the agenda.
Well, how about district highlights then, Mr.
We do have some highlights. We do have.
Okay.
Thanks to the generosity of the Wilson School staff, over $500 was collected to purchase ShopRite gift certificates for needy Wilson families. Mrs. Marie Koch, a Wilson benefactor, donated over 135 new toys and games to the children who might otherwise not have had gifts. As always, the caring Wilson family reaches out to bring smiles to the faces of those children and their families who are less fortunate. A job well done to Sayreville Middle School guidance counselor David Fisher, teachers Tara Cleary and Jarrett Lampkin, and paraprofessional Colleen Messina, who created gorgeous holiday wreaths which were sold to staff members. Students and staff members worked diligently to create these wreaths by hand. With their hard work and determination, 50 wreaths were made which raised over $1,000. The class will be donating the funds to the Ronald McDonald House in New Brunswick. This is a community service project that staff members look forward to and our students learn the valuable lesson of giving. Sayreville Junior Skylar Lutz impressed judges with his performance at the Region 2 Band and Orchestra auditions. His performance consisted of 2 movements from a Scarlatti Sonata, scales, arpeggios, and sight readings. Skylar received the 2nd highest score in the solo category and 4th highest total of 18 facets. As a result, he will be performing with the Central Jersey Region 2 Orchestra. The performance and CD recording will be made on January 30th at the Watchung Regional High School. The concert will be conducted by Louis Cosma, who is a member of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra and the music director of the Vermont Symphony Orchestra. Skylar studies classical and jazz bass with Jeffrey Dingler and is a member of the Sayreville High School Concert Band and Jazz Ensemble. Kudos and a big thank you to the following students at the Sayreville War Memorial High School men's and women's basketball program who volunteered at the Sayreville Recreation Department's Toys for Tots holiday party on Sunday, December 13th. These fine young men and women volunteered their time on Sunday afternoon to help make the Christmas season a joyful one for the needy children of our community. Mr. Jerry Us, Director of Recreation for the Borough of Sayreville, sent a letter commending these student athletes for their kindness and compassion. He also wished to recognize their dedication to the community service in the borough. The students are David Maluski, Zach Valentine, Sid Holt, Michael Pear, Joe Janella, Gerald Smith, Tyrone Bethea, Trey Johnson, Isaiah Lemon, Tariq Jackson, Mark Keir, Samuel Pergis, Darrell Stevenson, Alexis Baker, Rebecca Case, Gabby Kassier, Tori Woods, Bridget Giovenco, Desiree Barish, Angie Pedreza, Jackie Nunez, Crystal Pearson, Stephanie Johns, Rosie Caramella, Lainey Andrews, Cheyenne Grant, Rachel Harris, Jessica Kittredge, Rachel Castellito, Nicole Adamek, Jamila Manley, Natasha Gordon, and Tanisha Wilson. That concludes our highlights, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Dr. O'Connor, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. McEnroe. Page 1, Buildings and Grounds. That's an all-school elementary use of buildings for the Cub Scouts. Any questions with Section 1? With none, moving to section 2, A and B are two change orders with a little over $15,000. Required random drug testing for $520 for transportation. Occupational therapy services, which is D. E is psychological consultant services. There is an addition, which is on the addendum, which is another change order for $7,568 for Sean Ray. Any questions in section 2? With none, moving to personnel non-certified. You have an unpaid personal leave, the leave of absence, and professional days, which is C. D are substitutes. Again, E and F are on your addendum. E is a retroactive unpaid medical leave, and F is an employment approval. Any questions with section 3? With none, moving to 4. A and B are pregnancy leaves. C is professional days. On the addendum, in C, there are 4 additional teachers going on a workshop. Moving right along to letter D, this is an employment. There's also an addendum for level D, section D, which are 2 more employments being offered. Section E are substitutes, and on the addendum there are additional substitutes. F and G are 2 additional additions to, which are on the addendum. Both are pregnancy leaves. Any questions with section 4? With none, moving to policy. There are 8 different policies. The highlighted areas are new, and the strike-through are deletions. If you go to page 7, that's policy operations and maintenance of the plant is 3510. You'll see it's it's pretty much new. When you move to, and we did, Mr. Clark, make those 2 basic changes that Mr. Clark had asked. Moving to page, just bear with me. Page 12 is the second policy, 3000, which is concepts and roles in business and non-instructional operations, goals and objectives. Page 15 is the third policy, 3451, which is petty cash funds. Page 16 is policy 518, which is non-residents, which we finally got on the board report. Page 19 is policy 3516, which is safety. Policy page 21, policy 3600, evaluation of business and non-instructional operations. That's the 6th policy. Policy number 7 is 5145.12, which is searches and seizures. And finally, the 7th policy, which is 5141, which is the 8th policy on health. This is the first reading, so subsequently we can make any changes to those for the next meeting, which I will have at the February 16th meeting. Are there any questions with those 8 policies?
I just have a question. You said everything that's highlighted is new. Is there a distinction between the colors,
No,
or it doesn't matter?
No.
Whatever
I
color
made
is
the yellow, that was me, and
Oh.
school boards was the, whatever that color is. Great.
Just one question on the policy on health, Mrs. Sutherland. The employment of a medical inspector to perform duties, what is that? Add that circle there.
We appoint annually a medical inspector. It's
Yeah, is that
pediatric
from-
associates.
Okay, and that's the ones that come in from the food and all that other stuff, to verify the...
No, it's a medical inspector. A medical inspector is the physicians that provide are the physicians that provide necessary services for schools.
The physicals and that kind of stuff?
They don't come in and do physicals. The physicals are done now by each student's private physician. Unless they qualify for free reduced lunch, then they're done at our medical inspector's office. The board pays for that.
Okay, so
state
that's
statute.
this,
Mhm.
okay,
We
that's-
also have a medical inspector who does drug testing for students and for employees. But they're approved annually, and usually at the August meeting, they are published in the Our Schools Bulletin annually as well.
okay, I understand you, thank you.
You'll be seeing probably the next round at the 16th meeting, And in March, we'll approve probably 2 or 3 more. So at every probably meeting for the next 3 or 4 months, we'll be approving new policy. So we have a standing relationship now with New Jersey School Boards that they're giving us a lot of the updates. Moving on to Section 6, curriculum. These are special services placements in Section A. Any questions with Section A on page 29 and 30? With none, moving to 7, co-curriculum. Again, use of buildings, the Harlem Wizards, once again, character education at the SUES, Truman School Chorus Show, and Spanish Fiesta, which is B. Any questions with Section 7? With none, moving to 8. These are camp transportation contracts and some transportation cancellations and changes, and there are 8 field trips listed within Section 8. That concludes my report.
Any discussion from the board before I open up to the public on the agenda? If not, at this time, open up to the public for any questions, comments on the agenda items only. I will open up again to the public for any business that may come before the board. If anybody has any questions or comments on the agenda, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. And if you don't care to be videotaped, please let us know. Anyone from the public on the agenda items? If not, I'll close the public portion on the agenda items and move for a motion for superintendent's report approval and file.
So moved.
Make a motion, need a second?
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Backer,
Yes.
Mr. Bishada,
Yes.
Mr. Syak,
Yes.
Mrs. Esposito,
Yes.
Mr. Lembo,
Yes.
Mrs. Stratton, and Mr. McEnroe.
Yes. Moving along to agenda, background information discussion. I have one item on Friday afternoon. I had a meeting, lasted about an hour and 20 minutes with Mr. James Wolcrow, who is the administrator of the Middlesex County Board of Elections, along with Mr. Frankel, who is the, commissioner, the head commissioner of the Board of Elections, to discuss moving of the polls. They contacted me about 2 weeks ago and indicated that this issue, in their words, had reached a feverish pitch, and I think that was the result of our frequent attendance at freeholder meetings. And they wanted to come to Sayville and talk to us, and they did on, was that Friday? It was Friday, last Friday. The 29th, and I think it was a very productive meeting. They had maps of all the voting districts in Sayville, and they looked at our alternate locations to move them. They made no promises. They said that we will get back with you. So that's where we stand. I think we're at the point now where it's going to make or break this thing from happening. Whether we're going to do it or not going to do it. I think this is. They took the time to come to Sayville and talk to us, and they did their research on the voting habits of Sayville residents and locations, and we'll see what happens. But if I don't hear from them, probably by the end of this month, I will contact them again for an update. But they said, don't call us, we'll call you, so we'll see what happens. So that's all I have on background information, what we've been working. Anyone else? If not, Mr. Clark, welcome. Mr. Clark arrived.
Thank you.
We happen to be at the delegate to the New Jersey School Board Association point.
Yep.
What's on the horizon?
The long-awaited transition report on education from Chris Christie, our new governor. He set up a wide cross-range of educational stakeholders. There was a 25-page report issued. You can access it on www.njsba.org. It has a lot of doom and gloom in it, which is expected, especially with the financial situation. A lot of federal grants are set to expire. At the same time, our state financial resources are in trouble. There's some wide-ranging, drastic changes in there that may or may not be implemented. So it's good reading. Take a look at it. There's going to be some automatic changes, especially with moving the date that we have to have some of our financial things in until late March. Some of those things are changing, so hold on to your seatbelts.
And starting in 2011, next year, Board of Education elections will be held in November. And that came right from the Board of Elections, who already got the word, and they're working that to make it happen. So they're going to not this April, but the following April, Board of Elections, the board will be in November. So, that's the latest that will be raised. Under discussion, Mr. DeAndrea.
To follow up with what Mr. Clark said, yes, there are a lot of things coming out from the new governor, and one of them specifically deals with our budget timeline. Just to start, what I'd like the board to do is please note that it's possibility March 23rd is when we'll need to adopt our tentative budget, and possibly the following week, March 30th, have your public hearing and adopt your final budget. This is all based on information that we received through the county that the governor's budget address is slated for March 16th or 18th. I'm just trying to go off the top. And then state aid figures follow right after that. So right now, these are preliminary dates. If the message comes out earlier, state aid figures come out earlier, obviously those things have changed, but if the board wouldn't mind, use these as a parameter. And with that, Dr. Alfano and I today had a meeting with the county superintendent and the county business administrator. Part of the new regulations require that they meet with school boards. We had the opportunity of meeting with Piscataway, who thought they were doing great because they were more than happy to announce that they're at it there. They sit little over $9 million under adequacy, and Dr. Alfano and I trumped them by saying we're $11.5 million under adequacy. So it became a very interesting conversation with the county superintendent and VA and a counterpart of ours, talking about ways in which you can work with whatever direction the new governor gives us. And we both sat there and said, there's not much we can do when we sit at $9.5 and $11.5 million below the adequacy threshold that the state has established. So it became a very interesting conversation, and almost all of the things that they suggested to look at for cost cutting, we've been there, done that, and I know Dr. Alfano and I were made, as Piscataway has a lot of reserve money that they've hidden away, and we here, we don't use that practice. You know, they store money away in capital reserve, unemployment trust reserve to go back at. Those are things that we haven't done here in Sayreville, so it was quite interesting. With that, I was asked to also give a quick synopsis of where we are with the current budget process. I'd just like to do that at this point in time. This year, the Finance Committee, I believe we met 3 or 4 times at this point. Four meetings with Mr. McEnroe, Mr. Lembo, and Mr. Bashad were a part of, with Dr. Alfano and Mrs. Sutherland, Miss Sutherland, sorry, Color.
That's okay.
Met and went through the budget. This is a very difficult budget to prepare because there is no information or guidance on how to prepare the budget. There's a lot of rumors out there, a lot of things floating around as to where we're going to be. We've heard anywhere from 0 state aid to 10% reduction in state aid. We've heard reduce and lose your ARRA money. For us, that's $2.7 million in ARRA funding that was used to offset state aid. So if we lose that, that's a big hit. They're talking about reducing your surplus possibly down to 1.5%, possibly 1%, making you use all of your surplus. There are so many scenarios out there that it's almost impossible to predict where we're going to be. The approach that we used with the Finance Committee is we assumed, number one, we're appropriating the same amount of fund balance as we did last year, $2 million. State aid is going to be flat. We'll receive the same amount of flat state aid as we did last year, close to $22 million in state aid. And we came in at less than 2% tax increase. What does that all mean? When you compare the 09-10 budget as adopted versus the budget that the Finance Committee worked on, we're only increasing our budget by $990,000. The good thing in that is, with $990,000, it actually includes new staff that the district so desperately needs in certain areas. Right now, the budget includes 1 new technician for the district, 2 maintenance individuals, 1 who would be a regular maintenance and 1 who would specialize in HVAC, 1 middle school language arts teacher, a high school physical education teacher and a high school science teacher, and an elementary teacher at Eisenhower. Included in that is also bringing back the collaborative program, which we now work with the Middlesex Educational Services Commission. They run a special ed program. We're also included in here 2 teachers to run that program and 4 paras. So although it's a $990,000 increase, $575,000, including benefits, is the biggest portion of that increase.
Mr. DeAndrea, can I just say a few words? When we were there, a lot of the districts, or some of the districts, were saying, that they were going to cut, and our response was, the last thing that we're going to cut is personnel. And we were very clear about that. And not, I'm not going to say what other districts are going to do, but we were very clear with the county superintendent and the county business administrator that we would do everything in our power, because it's really not about program, it's not about anything other than the personnel that you have that sit behind that desk and work with those children every day. And if you notice, really none of that is administrative in nature. It's all maintenance driven. It's all areas that we really need. And I read a ton of stuff in the papers. You talked about different districts. People are just, with that kind of budget, they're cutting back big time in their personnel. What Mr. DeAndrea is saying, which is relatively unique, we've been through this already for the last 6 or 7 years, probably for the last 20. So our budgets are lean and mean, and we're used to this kind of stuff. And I'm very proud of what Mr. DeAndrea does and the board, because we do a lot with a little. And I don't think people really understand what adequacy means. That means we could spend another $11.5 million, according to what the state is saying, residually every single year. So predominantly, we do, obviously, you add $11 million to the budget. We're only going up $990,000, which is about 1.3% of the appropriation, which is relatively very small increase for the entire appropriation. And you skim off $500,000 on that, and you're talking about that our budget's pretty much flat from last year with the appropriation. So hopefully we'll get what we say we're going to get. We have 3 or 4 other scenarios. That's one of the reasons why Mr. DeAndrea, myself, and Sutherland, and the board has not come out with a budget. We don't want to go out there and create doom and gloom. We want to put the best budget that we can together. And we're not really expecting any information until March. So this situation is what it is. They're telling us to put out 4 separate budgets. And now all that's going to do, as far as I'm concerned, is going to confuse people. So I think Mr. DeAndrea did a very nice job explaining that, and I hope to God we get the revenue that we so desperately need. And we made it crystal clear to the State Department that this district really should not be cut back. We should be getting our fair share. And we'll do everything possible to make sure that we get that. And
What guidance did the executive county superintendent provide to the DAs about what they're hearing from Trenton?
not a whole lot. I mean, Dr. Pagari is one of the best guys you could ever work with and really be side by side with it, because he's an educator. And he's as confused about this process as anybody else. He said he's been in education now 30 plus years, 35 years, and he said he's never seen what's going on right now. And to be fair, it's a new governor, a brand new commissioner. You have a transition program. If you read it, the transition plan is all over the place. So really, we're going to do the best that we can, and we're prepared for anything. So, but our goal, and understand this, we're going to keep our class sizes, and I believe I'm speaking for the board when I say this, our class sizes at least where they're at right now. And we talked to some districts. They're expecting 3, 4, 5, 6 kids per class more. They're expecting to eliminate programs, possibly all-day kindergarten, possibly some other programs that they're running, courtesy busing and things of that nature. I said, well, we've already been through courtesy busing. We really don't want to see that again. So I'm relatively optimistic that I think the funding formula, because of adequacy, which is a major part of the funding formula, will help us in the long run. So I'm hoping that because we do such a good job, that we don't get penalized for doing a good job, that it would be basically, if they're gonna cut state aid, they're gonna cut state aid based on a sliding scale. If we're $10,000 a child, and somebody's $17,000 a child, and we're 11 million below adequacy, and somebody's above adequacy, I would think that state aid should be proportionate based on how efficiently you run your budget. And I would hope that that's what the commissioner and the governor really take a look at, and I'm sure they'll do the right thing. So, thank you, Mr. DeAndrea. I think it was a good synopsis of what's going on, and I think that's the fairest way to do it.
When we spoke to then Governor Corzine, when he came to Harvard, he acknowledged the millions of dollars on the adequacy we were. When we spoke to candidate Christie, Mr. Lembo and I at the roundtable we had, when he was a candidate, he acknowledged we were millions of dollars. So you're telling us the state's going to give us 11 million?
No.
Okay, what I want to do for next board meeting is to brief the board in public on where we are with the latest budget that the committee met to talk about the two assumptions.
We'll present the budget that we have, and we'll sort of work it around it.
Right.
Can I just say one thing, Mr. McEnroe, with discussion? I want to ask Ms. Brady if she doesn't mind coming up, because we have a very good program that we're running, what's called Let the Students Lead. And she's got some good news for us at our March 2nd meeting and at the February 16th. Would you like to wait, or?
No, that was my question. I was asking, what meeting will we do that? The March 2nd meeting?
Well, I think Ms. Brady has a little bit of an update to that. So why don't you come up, Ms. Brady? Grab that mic over there by Ms.
State your name and address for now.
My name is Bonnie Brady. My address is 30 Douglas Street. The fifth graders are very interested in coming and representing you at the March 2nd meeting. What they're going to do is they're going to come on the February 16th meeting just to watch how things go. There are about 37 of them altogether. When we had the essays, we tried to pick the proper person for the job, but some of the essays were really very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to have them represent not only the board, but also the principals, the vice principals, the supervisors, and anybody.
So they're actually going to sit around the table and
Actually, the board members will sit with you, and then if I could have the tables behind me as the designated table for the principals, the vice principals, and the supervisors.
But the students are going to run the meeting.
Yes, they are.
Is that right? They can probably come up with a better budget than me. That's great. This is something that I've been talking to Dr. Alfano for the last 4 years. I think that to have the kids come, I think this is a great civic lesson, and it probably will humble us as well. So this is. Can I get to pick the kid to represent Mr. Lembo? Do I get?
Absolutely.
This is great. Again, it always seems that everything that is a quality act in this district has Bonnie Brady's name attached. So it's just an observation I've made over the last 5 years. I know this is a lot of preparation involved here. So the students that are participating will be at the next meeting just to observe how the meeting is conducted.
They'll be sitting in the back,
Okay.
and they'll just watch and observe, and then the March 2nd meeting will be fun.
Nice.
And I did have a lot of work
Well, I
of
absolutely
other
did.
people to help. No, I had the help of other people to do this with me.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're
Mrs.
welcome.
Brady, as always. Last thing I have in the discussion before I open up to the public, I sit on the planning board. Tomorrow there's a planning board meeting. It's the first application before the planning board that impacts the Board of Education, and the applicant of Town Lake is coming to the board for approval to convert 184 senior aged housing to no age restriction housing, which is going to have an impact on a number of students in the district. I know the Eisenhower School, I think we were talking about looking at numbers there, we're enrolling 3 kids a day or something to that. This is something to that effect over the last week or so. It was a big influx for some reason. But this is something that's going to have a direct effect on us as residents, because what was planned to be senior housing, which is 55 and over, no children, is now going to be 184 units with children. So, and that's in the Town Lake, and what elementary school is that? Wilson, right?
Wilson.
Wilson, okay, so if you're interested to see, it's going to be a pretty interesting meeting, I anticipate. It's tomorrow at 7:30 at the Borough Hall Council Chambers. Should be fun.
Mr. McEnroe?
Yes, Mr. Bouchard?
Just for Republic's verification on this, that Helmetta and both North Brunswick have voted no against the same applicant for the senior housing and cited different reasons, not necessarily about schools, but infrastructure, transportation, congestion, et
It
cetera.
was called detrimental to the public good, is the reasons they denied both applications, but both of those are in litigation right now, so we'll see what happens tomorrow.
And again, we can thank our ex-governor Corzine for another outstanding law to make our lives better.
Okay, I agree. If not any other discussion, at this time, I'd like to open up to the public for any business they do come before the board. This time, if anyone from the public has anything to say, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Anyone from the public? If no one's from the public, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. Our next board meeting will be 2 weeks from tonight.